He is the one.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along to the wilds of Suffolk. I'm out here yet again doing what I do, walking along in beautiful locations such as this, giving you my thoughts and opinions on things that are happening in the world and the public consciousness. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, all 1,316 of you I think there are today, welcome one and all, welcome. It's a pleasure for me to have you join me for these walks, so thank you one and all for being here. So, today, by the title, I'm titling this video, What? Santa's Not Real? I wanted to do this in December, which would have made a bit more sense, but with the work that I do, I'm a chef, for those of you who don't know. For the work that I do, Christmas time is by far the busiest time of the year. It was mental, very busy. Working 2 jobs 7 days a week. It's mental. So you have to put up with me doing this video in January. Thankfully, it's still early January. So happy New Year, one and all. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and that this year is going to be wonderful. I hope it's going to be wonderful, but I think it's going to be very interesting, gauging by things that are happening in the world, and we'll go through a few of those today, and we'll see whether it takes us, because I have no idea exactly the content I'm going to produce today, but it's a day off. I've taken a day off today, so I thought come out, record a video, say a few things, and see what people think. So, Santa's not real? What do you mean Santa's not real? Now, I thought about this title in November to do a video because of what I see and how people are responding to different information that's happening at the moment. And the title is nothing really to do with Santa, but it is in a way. So I'll kick it off, and then we'll move from there, and you can decide whether the validity of what I'm saying, or whether you think I'm full of bullshit. And that's fine either way. I don't really mind. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to try and convince you of anything. I'm here to ask questions and give you my viewpoint, my opinion, and see what you think, and see if you think similar thoughts, or if you're even questioning the information, which is what this whole thing is about. It's questioning the reality that we experience as reality, and trying to determine how we should interpret it, really. I mean, the world is insane, like straight up crazy. So what do I mean by asking or saying the statement, what, Santa's not real? Now, I've got 2 young daughters. I've got 3 daughters altogether and 4 grandchildren, but I've got 2 younger daughters that are 11 and 14. So during their younger years, when they were babies, and we took part in the whole Santa, delivering presents thing, and we were never how can I put this? We were never too far down the rabbit hole with that, the whole Santa thing and what Christmas means and what Christmas is about and whether Jesus was born now and all those kind of things. But it was more just a bit of fun and a way to make it magical for the children, right? As the children got a little bit older, the children started asking questions. One of my children asked me, she said, is Santa real? And I said, well, what do you think? She said, well, I want it to be real. I like the whole magical idea behind someone coming in and doing the presents. As a parent, all the work that goes along with, the whole Christmas and Santa and presents and all the gift giving and all that kind of jazz. It's a lot of work, and to keep that all secret is more work still. So it is that after a period of time, the magic sort of wears off for children. They sort of start to understand that it's not really a magical person that comes from the North Pole, and brings them gifts. But my daughter said this day, after she'd heard a parent talking to another parent at the school, say, is Santa real? And we, my wife and I both responded, well, what do you think? What do you think? And her response was, I want it to be real. And we said, well, then that's fine. You can think and believe whatever you want to believe, which is the way we've approached everything with our children. Religion, the education system, the knowing of science, all those kind of things. We ask them to examine their beliefs and then question their beliefs as to why they believe what they believe. Okay? So we've been on this journey for quite some time. I mean, my wife had a waking experience, learning that everything that she thought was real was all a complete fabrication. It was very, very difficult for her. I've been on this journey a long, long time. I've been questioning the nature of reality. My grandma sent me on this journey when I was very young. Gave me a book about ancient Egypt and asked me what I thought about it. And if you've delved into the ancient Egypt and the creation of the pyramids and the Sphinx and all those kind of things, and an understanding of people didn't build that. Well, and the one guardian of all of that is a guy called Zawi Hawass. But anyway, the point is that when the children were younger, we saw that sort of magic in their eyes and that light in their eyes of the magic of Christmas, and the whole idea of, this magical person bringing these gifts. We saw that light start to fade in the children's eyes, that innocence start to leave them. And that is sort of indicative of how we are as people as we start to grow. And we saw that in our children represented with the whole belief in Santa and that fading away and Christmas not being as special as it once was. That whole magic of that, the waking up on Christmas morning and running down the stairs and going, Mummy and Daddy, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and see if there was any gifts. Now, the reason I'm titling this video the way that I am, Santa's not real, is what I see now in the world, this great awakening, this change in the way that people are viewing the understanding of what we live in and the people who govern us, the corporations, I mean, the money system, the education system, every system that we've come to, that we grew up with. If you're anywhere close to my age, I'm a 51-year-old man, the systems that you grew up with are more akin to a prison planet nowadays, as the centralization of power, information and control is more centralized, is more brought together in a centralized way, in a centralized governance, if you will. So I see, as people start to question the nature of this reality, if that's what we're calling it, that it is much like that belief in a Santa, a mythical, magical being that's going to take care of you and it cares about you and wants to go out of their way to look after you, being the way that the people view their various governments around the world, their mummy and daddy government, that, oh, we're here to take care of you. What's the scariest words in the world? Hi, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Yes. So I've been doing these videos now 3 years or something, maybe a bit longer. About the time that COVID started, that pile of bullshit. And in that time, I've tried to talk about things that I see in the world, events that are taking place, false flags, corruption, people involved in corruption, politicians, corporations, the monetary system, what is wrong. at the core of everything, I mean, really, at the core of everything that is wrong with the world, at the core is money. Now, we have, I'm sure, some people who are going to listen into this and are of a religious bent and have studied religious books, and you've heard the quote, "Money is the root of all evil," which is a misnomer, it's a misquote. The quote is actually, "The love of money is the root of all evil." Now, when I say money, I mean the central bank's money, the money that we use every day, the notes and the coins and the digital money, all the money that's created by these central banks, centrally controlled, is the issue. Because it can be printed into infinity and beyond, and they control that printing. Well, they have the ability and the legal right to print money from nothing, with no backing, just print it into existence and give it to you and me, with interest attached, of course. So what they're doing is they're stealing your time, to generate things for them. So imagine I make something up, pop, I just happen to have a £10 note in my hand, pop, just like that, just pops into existence from nothing, okay? I give it to somebody else and say, right, now you've got to pay me back 15. So that person's got to go work, turn some more of that fake money to give back to me. So they're giving their time and their energy to serve me. Does that make sense? Now, money is nothing. I mean, really, it's a construct. But the concept of the way our society works is based on this money. Now, it's not money in a traditional sense of, something valuable, because it's worthless. It's worth nothing. It does nothing, it's worth nothing. Whereas you compare that to something like gold, for instance, and gold has intrinsic value, and you'll be told it's got intrinsic value because of the cost it takes to dig it out of the ground, which is the labour of the people digging it, the machinery that it takes to dig it. But really, why it has value is it solves a problem. Multiple problems. It does lots of different things. Gold is a great conductor of, not conductor as in music, but conductor of heat and cold. It is can never be destroyed. Can never be destroyed. Doesn't matter what you do to gold. You can melt it, you can freeze it, you can do whatever you want to it. You can break it into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces. Can never be destroyed. It has intrinsic value because it's used in things like jewelry, which is pretty, And there is even stories that it is can be used in an elixir of life. If it's mixed with different elements like colloidal silver, for instance. And some other things like plants or natural things on this earth, or this reality that we experience. So that it has intrinsic value because it does something. It has a purpose. It solves a problem, right? And if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, and he says, "Sell this pen to me," and they come up with all these excuses. "Oh, you really want this pen? It's a beautiful pen." But really, at the end of the day, the guy sells the pen by going, "I'll give you $1 million if you sign this paper." "Oh, I don't have a pen." Well, here you go. So what problem does it solve? Is how much it's worth, or if it's worth anything at all. Now, money doesn't solve any problem. It doesn't. All it does is create more problems. It doesn't solve it. But there are things that solve. It's a value proposition. It's a value proposition. So your energy, your worth, your energy, your labour, all those things are of value. So if you can transfer that value from yourself to somebody else, how is that medium of transfer going to take place if there's no money? Right? Because we all rely on it as a medium of exchange of our energy, of exchange of our services, of our time. for a product or a service, right? But if money, like the concept of money that comes from a central banking institution, is going to go away, what do you replace it with? How do you pay for things? How do you transfer value from yourself to somebody else? If somebody else has done something for you, how do you pay them for that service if money isn't a real thing? Okay? Now, some will tell you, some people will tell you, oh, it's Bitcoin, or it's Solana, or it's Ethereum, because they're the three buzzwords right now. If you listen to the TV, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Oh, Bitcoin was created after the 2008 financial crisis to mean that people could transact person to person, one to one, or business to person or person to business without the middleman of the banks. Sounds amazing, right? It does. Sounds incredible. Bitcoin. So the anonymous person, Satoshi Nakamoto, who no one knows who it is, created this unique algorithm that meant that that there's no third-party risk, there's no central bank, it could be transferred person to person, and the miners of the Bitcoin, which is the reward for confirming the transactions, the miners of the Bitcoin they are there to make sure that the blockchain works properly. Okay, much like mining, this is why it is called mining, much like mining gold out of the ground, the people who will tell you that gold has a value because of the cost of mining it out of the ground gives it value, they will use the same excuse for Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin is expensive because of the costs associated with mining it. Okay? Now, what these people who believe that Bitcoin is the be-all and end-all, the solution to all the problem, and let's face it, Bitcoin was a great first-generation technology. The concept is brilliant, but it doesn't tell us who invented it or why. Okay, so I have to do all this. So there's a reason for it. Okay, now, you will excuse me. It is a bit cold out today, so my nose is a bit runny. My fingers are frozen, but totally worth being out here in the forest. It is beautiful today. Sun is shining, as you can see in the background there through the trees. Gorgeous, but there is a bit of a wind blowing, which is why I haven't been able to get around for a while and do a video. So, a few years ago now, the Homeland Security in the United States was on stage, and there was a woman from Homeland Security saying, we had one of our agents saying that they wanted to go and meet this Satoshi Nakamoto and find out about this Bitcoin and how it worked and what it did and what it was all about. So one of the agents organised, this is Homeland Security, okay, went to California to meet with Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, it turns out that it wasn't one person, it was 4 people. 4 people. So we get to a stage now, here we are in 2023, Bitcoin was invented in 2009, late 2008, early 2009, and in that audience that day, when the SEC was on stage talking about how they went and met the 4 Satoshi Nakamotos, in the audience that day was a few members of the SEC, okay? Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, for those of you who aren't proficient with your acronyms. The head of the SEC being Gary Gensler, former head of the SEC, left the day after they dropped a lawsuit against Ripple that slowed Ripple's technology down. If you're up with that story, great. If you're not, it's a longer story. It's another video for another day. Gary Gensler is a corrupt piece of dirt. He is on the side of the legacy banking cartel. He used to work for Morgan Stanley for 17 years, I think it was. And now he's regulating the very same banks that he was once working for. Now, the SEC is in the spotlight right now because many companies, including Grayscale, Van Eck, BlackRock, we've discussed BlackRock a little bit, haven't we? those companies, largest corporations in the world, BlackRock is one of the largest. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street own nearly everything. Who are they? Okay. Now, we've spoken about BlackRock. I'll turn around this way. The wind's a bit blowy here. I'll go back into the trees. BlackRock has applied for this Bitcoin ETF. It's an electronic traded fund. Okay, which means essentially that the investing public who don't want to directly own Bitcoin themselves because they're worried about their holding on to it and how they can own it securely without losing it, because if you lose your private keys you don't own it anymore, yada yada yada. So an ETF means that you can have exposure to Bitcoin without actually holding it yourself, and that will be facilitated by the biggest financial corporations in the world, namely BlackRock, Van Eck, and all these other companies that have applied for these Bitcoin ETFs. Okay. Now, if the Homeland Security knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, okay, they know. The SEC had people who worked for the SEC in the audience that day when the Homeland Security was saying they met Satoshi Nakamoto. So let's just assume, for argument's sake, that the SEC also knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Now, these companies have applied for this Bitcoin ETF. Now, in order to have a Bitcoin ETF, it has to be a commodity, so there can't be one central authority that controls Bitcoin network, okay? Oh, it's decentralized, so it's definitely not controlled, they say. Ethereum and Bitcoin are decentralized enough not to be controlled, so said the SEC through Bill Hinman. Long story, even longer story. Bill Hinman also left the SEC the day after they dropped the lawsuit against Ripple. Okay? Jay Clayton was the head of the SEC. Bill Hinman was the head of corporate finance department of the SEC. They both left the day before the Ripple lawsuit dropped. Okay? Now, so if we know that the SEC knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, so they know the central party behind Bitcoin, right? We don't know who that person or those people are out here in the world, in the reality. We don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. The government departments do. Now, if you're going to be offering a financial product for sale to the public, it has to be authorized by the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, that is. Now, if you're going to be offering a financial product for consumers, you have to know everything about it. And I mean everything. Everything. Including the creator, who Satoshi Nakamoto is, in order to present that product, because it's called your fiduciary responsibility for you to know everything about that product. Because if you're going to offer a product to the people to buy, to the public to buy, or corporations or whoever's going to buy the ETF, then you need to know who's responsible for it. Because if, let's just say Satoshi Nakamoto was North Korean or Iranian or, oh boy, still Russian, Russia, or Chinese, what's to say that they couldn't destroy these companies or the individuals investing in this product by destroying the network? You know what I mean? So there's questions to be asked there. Now there's lots of things going on where people are starting to question who Satoshi Nakamoto is. In fact, somebody even sent some Bitcoin to the original seed wallet that is owned by Satoshi Nakamoto, because in the US they passed a law that if you own crypto, then you have to, every transaction above 10,000 is monitored and you have to state that on your taxes. So somebody sent some more than 10,000 worth of Bitcoin to the original seed wallet, because then that person has to declare that. So they're trying to out Satoshi Nakamoto, or the 4 people who are Satoshi Nakamoto, just before the ETF. Okay? All right. So there's a little bit of history there. about what's going on. Obviously, if you know the history behind the SEC and the Ripple story and Ethereum and the IPO of a Chinese company by Jay Clayton and the Chinese involvement in Ethereum and the SEC giving clearance to Ethereum and Bitcoin, there's some questions to be asked. Now, on another tangent, I don't know whether you heard about the 8 to 10 foot beings in the Bayside Mall in Miami in Florida. Now, there's been some excitement about this. I don't know where to start. I don't. It's such a strange story that why would an 8 to 10 foot tall alien shop in a shopping mall? For a start, it seems a bit odd. Eyewitness reports are that they phase shifted into existence and it was like a glitch in the Matrix, and these beings were 8 to 10 foot. And I didn't take a video of it because I was just so scared that I ran. Now, let's just say, for instance, that these people saw what they thought that they saw. Okay, I'm willing to accept that. What is happening with not just things like Bitcoin that we've been told by the powers that be, the media, the politicians, the regulatory agencies, things like Bitcoin and things like aliens, interplanetary craft, interdimensional beings like Bigfoot, that we shouldn't take any notice of that. It's crazy. It's crazy. We've all been told that for a long time, right? Now, the reason I've done this talk today is because what I see is, as I move through this reality and I speak to more people, and for a long, long time, I've just been called crazy and ridiculous and stupid and covidiot and all those kind of names, and misogynist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, you name it, sexist. Just I've been called all the names. I love them. I love it. It's like a badge of honor that I wear. Now, as I move through this reality, this experience that we experience as reality, I have come into contact with more and more people that are starting to realize that what they believed as being reality is not as real as they thought it was. And the people that they place their trust in, their mummy and daddy, the government that tells them the truth and what's real, and the media that tells them the truth and what's real, and all those kind of stories that have been told to us by our parents are not real. Much like children when they come to the realization that Santa's not real. All the things that you've been telling me all this time are not real. It's a lie. It's happening more and more often as people come to the realization that everything they believe is a complete fabrication and made up for whatever reason, to keep you in control, to keep you lulled asleep. Oh, look over there, it's some more Netflix. All over there, it's a new movie. Oh, look over there, it's an 8 to 10 foot tall alien. Everything is a distraction. I've been saying this for years now. Everything is a distraction, and it's a distraction away from what? Distraction away from the fact that you're a slave to a financial institution that was created by people that want to enslave you and take your labor and your effort and your imagination and your entire life away from you to serve them. It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear that your belief systems have been manipulated forever. Our entire lives have been manipulated by religions. Our entire lives have been manipulated by politicians. It's all a control system. Everything around you is a control system. And when people like me are saying it, people don't want to hear it. It's the last thing they want to hear. Your entire life is a lie, and you've been controlled, and you're a slave to a system that there's nothing you can do about. People don't want to hear that. Of course they don't. They want to hear the wonderful stories of, no, everything's just fine and we're not in a recession. We're not in a recession. And this thing that I'm going to stick into you is 100% safe and effective, except it doesn't work. And you have to have 10 of them just to stay alive. While the people who haven't had them are the real danger. They're the ones who are making you sick, even though they're not sick. It's hard lessons to learn for people. It's really, really hard for people to hear that the things that they believe are not true. So, all that said, I mean, honestly, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a place where we're walking around dazed and confused, not knowing where to turn to, and leaving people vulnerable. And scared and vulnerable people will make stupid decisions because people aren't used to making their own decisions. Let me give you an example. I was listening to a video this morning by a guy called Jean-Claude over at Beyond Mystic. He was interviewing a guy that went to live in the forest, completely off-grid. He built his own cabin. He did a YouTube channel where he built his own cabin and started to talk to people about living off-grid and changing his life and his family's life by moving out to the forest and moving away from civilization, from society, so that he could lessen the blow to him and his family when things went sideways. Now, if you've been following this channel at all, I've moved out of the city myself. I moved out from London about 6 years ago to the country. While we're not completely self-sustaining, I have changed the way that I work and live. We live out here in the forest. We grow our own food, we store it as well as we can, we have generators, we have the ability to hunt and fish should the need be required. But most people are not used to having to rely on themselves for their very existence. And to say to people the very things that you believe in, all those things are lies, and this whole way that things are built by these pretend governments that aren't really elected, they're selected for their own benefit. For their own benefit. They benefit themselves, their friends and their family, their business partners outside of politics, and corporations who come to them and say, here's some money for your election fund. Now this is what we want from you. So, now that I've burst your bubble and told you that Santa's not real, I mean, what do I replace it with? I mean, you know, it's all well and good to come out here and burst your bubble and say, well, everything you believe is a lie. Sorry, bye. But that just leaves people in a more vulnerable state than believing in the lies and the garbage, because then they're left without any direction, without a rudder, without any kind of thing to steer towards that's going to make their life better. So they're going to gravitate back towards the things that they've always known, because it's easier to live in a slave mindset under people that want to guide you than it is to start making your own decisions. Because if I've seen it before, I've seen it when my wife had cancer. She said to me, it's easier if I just go with the prescribed treatment, being chemo and stuff like that, than to make the decision myself. Because if I make the decision and I die, well, then it's on me. Whereas if I die because of the decisions that I make, trusting the doctors, well, it's not my fault, it's theirs. It's easier to shift the responsibility onto someone else for your upset, for your imprisonment, your enslavement, than to accept the consequences of the decisions that I've made have led me to this point. Now, I know this is going to be unpopular. I know that. You know, it would probably be a real burden to me if this is my way of making a living, by telling people that, I'm sorry, but you've made the decisions that have led you to the point where you are in this reality that we're all enslaved. So, like I say, what's the solution, honestly? Because you'll have people out there telling you, oh, Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana, they're the solutions. Solana, where does Solana even come from, right? Why in the last sort of month has Solana been, I've been in this for since 2018, late 2017, early 2018. And all of a sudden this Solana's come out of nowhere to be, oh yeah, Solana is the next big thing. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now, in order for you to make decisions about what do you think is going to be best for you and yours and moving forward, if you're thinking about cryptos, the best advice I can give to you is to go to an exchange, buy some for yourself, and then send them from one wallet to another wallet. So A, you can learn how to use the technology, and B, you can see how long it takes and how expensive it is. Good test, don't you think? Yeah? If you want to send money internationally, how do you do it? You go to the bank and you pay the bank to do the work that you could do yourself. Or you try and learn something new to remove yourself from the slave matrix that you're in. Now, like I say, gold, silver, things like that have intrinsic value because they solve a real world problem. And the real world problem being, what is it used for? What's it good for? Why does it have value? What gives it value? Its use case. If something has a use case, if something is worthwhile, if it solves a real world problem, then what's it worth? It's worth whatever the problem it solves. Right? So, from my experience, what we can all do is, firstly, any entrapment or enslavement that your governments or your media or your TV personalities or sports personalities or movie stars or film stars or music singers like Taylor Swift, I want to do whatever Tay-Tay says because she's a billionaire that's made money off singing, and I'm going to listen to her about political stuff because, I mean, it's the same as listening to me. I'm just some crazy person who walks around in the forest with a camera and a stick. You know, Taylor Swift walks around on a stage with a microphone and whatever goes on in her head, you know. If you want to entrust yourself to that system, then go for it. Go for it, but don't ask me to go along with you. Now, if you want to extricate from yourself from that system, you've got to make different decisions about where you want to place your trust, the information that you want to place your trust in, and educating yourself in ways that is outside of the system of control that they're asking us to step into. Now, you want to take part in society as society moves into a more technological era. That is going to involve you being involved in in technology. And some technologies are better than others, obviously. And it's only through using those technologies and understanding them that you can decide which technologies are going to benefit you and which are going to enslave you more. Which requires you to do a bit of homework into the creation of, the use of, how does it work, what does it mean to me, should I use it? And that gives you a bit of background, the understanding the background of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, whatever that is, helps you. Gold and silver, producing your own food, having a community that you can trade within, that means you don't have to fight for resources with people who refuse to look at information that runs counter to what they currently believe in. So at the end of the day, you have to decide on your level of discomfort of stepping outside of a system that enslaves you. What's your level of discomfort? How far are you willing to go to say, no, I don't want to take part in the enslavement anymore? You're going to accept a CBDC if you're flat broke and you haven't got a job? Well, most people will. Most people will accept a CBDC because it's like, well, if that's the only way I can move in this society, then that's the only way I can move in this society, I'm going to do it. Even though it might mean complete enslavement. People will do it because it's easier than making decisions for themselves. So the question I put on the table to you, okay, so if you now know that Santa's not real and there's no one there that's going to help you and you're on your own in this thing, what are you going to do about it? There's the question for today. I know what I'm doing. I know the decisions that I've made. and they haven't been easy ones. You know, to move out to the country, to earn a lot less than I was in the city, to make different decisions, grow our own food, and make those kind of decisions about, you know, how we educate our children, and all these kind of things comes into play when you're making decisions about how we want to live. So I put it to you, friends, family, people who just tuned in to maybe hate watch this, who are saying, this guy's just insane. Maybe I am. Maybe society would have you believe that I'm insane. But isn't society that we're told in this whole new woke culture that we live in, we have to be more accepting of people's viewpoints and how they see themselves and how they want to live in this world, except if you think differently, and ask people to question the reality that they're experiencing through this different mindset that makes you realize that you're a slave. Don't think like that. But all that said, all is not lost. All is not lost, because there are a lot of people questioning the reality we experience as reality, and they're understanding their place in the world and their power in the world, because we all have so much power to bring and change this reality into something that can benefit us all. But the need to feel like you're part of the society, that you have to be accepted in order to live, or that you have to be understood, or your viewpoints have to be understood, or you have to be willing to give your life away to something that would enslave you in order to get by. A lot of people are rejecting that. I am, but you have to make a decision about how you want to live and what you want to do with this life that you have, and what you want to leave behind. It's one of the many reasons I do these videos, to give you my viewpoint, show you what I'm doing, where I live, how I think, how much I'm questioning myself and the reality that I experience, and what I'm trying to do to help by sharing the message with the world, for whatever that means to you. So that said, go out into the world, do good and be good, and you can change the world with the way that you think, the way that you act, the way that you spend your money. The information you share can change the world. So do that. We can make the world a better place. Most important of all, look after yourself, look after each other, and we'll get by, and we'll make things better just by thinking different and the way we act in the world. So go out there and do that. Thank you so much for your time, one and all. Really appreciate your time and your energy and what you're bringing to this. Thank you, one and all. I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. Take care. Ciao for now.